So Missy Elliott, how come?
Oh well, I think like I when I first discovered Missy Elliott, she was I just love her energy. She's she's a badass kind of woman.
She's badass. Yeah. Can we
Badass. One
say
of
that?
my
I think we
favorite.
can say that.
That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite, actually, adjectives.
Even after all these years, I still kind of resonate with her music, and she's the kind of artist who transcends like all generations. So anyone who hears her, even the younger generations today, she still resonates and she still has like a point of view.
It's
Hmm.
true. I mean, hip hop in general, when you listen to old school hip hop, and and I've sent you, a couple of messages, Dr. Dre, Snoop, and Tupac, people still relate to that even today, even with with the Drakes and the Kendrick Lamars of the world, and people would still listen to old hip hop, old school hip hop.
I love it that you're into hip hop and transcending all generations.
People don't actually, assume that I would like hip hop.
No, I didn't at all. That came as a surprise. So I'm glad. I'm glad.
Like people who know me would never think that I'm into hip hop, but I actually.
Hello, and welcome to Forward Moves, hosted by Lina Nahhas and Raja Haddad. Well, it's a conversation we're going to have about the path of your successful journey and what enabled you to create impact in a space and with yourself in an ever moving world. Hello, Ayman Fakoussa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing okay. I think we overcame some of the technical glitches at the beginning. It's
Oh
really
my,
good.
yeah. And we had a few laughs along the way.
Few challenges.
Few challenges. That's good because that's what we're going to be talking about.
There you go.
Well, great. We're thrilled to have you with us and talk about the beautiful things you have done. And you've done a lot of beautiful things throughout your career. And most importantly, what keeps you moving forward. So I'll make the official intro now, if you just give me a couple of minutes, because I have to talk about
And I
that. So
wanna hear it.
I'm gonna read it out. That's the camera. So for our listeners and viewers, Ayman Fakoussa is the co-founder and managing partner of the Qode, a leading luxury brand communications and events agency based in Dubai. He established the agency in 2010 alongside Dipesh Dipala, driven by a vision to revolutionize how luxury brands communicate in the Middle East. Ayman has a background in marketing and PR, having worked with global brands like L'Oréal and Villa Moda, where he helped introduce high-end international brands to the region. His expertise lies in crafting bespoke brand experiences, which set the foundation for the Qode's innovative approach to luxury marketing. The Qode joined the Independence Group, signaling a new era for the agency, but also placing Dubai and the Middle East on the global map of the luxury events industry, a testimony by itself to Ayman's endeavors. And that's why I guess in my notes, I have written Ayman Fakoussa, PR extraordinaire. Would you describe yourself as such?
I mean, I think I have we have an extraordinary team. Like nothing that we do anymore is just me or Depeche. To be honest, like we're very lucky to have an incredible team. We're now 85 employees between Dubai, Riyadh, and Jeddah. So I mean, nothing that we do would happen without that team. And truly, I think what we do well is actually, I think, create the right environment for our teams to thrive. And that's what I think is, let's say, the secret sauce is really kind of making sure that you have an amazing team that's driven by what they do and that love what they do. And create that environment for our employees as well as our clients. And I think that's for me, what separates us from other agencies is that we truly like have that relationship with our clients. We've built those relationships over time, and I'm blessed to say that we have some of our clients that we've had for almost 15 years.
Yeah, I can tell that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you said something about creating an environment. Like, what do you mean by that? Because not everybody can create an environment. What is inside? What is that secret sauce in that environment?
So that's a good question. I mean, I think for us, it's really about creating that sense of family. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, right? It's everyone says, "Oh, we're like a family," or "It's a family environment." But we really kind of take time to spend with the team. So we do breakfast together at least once a month. We do company outings where we go out and just dance all night and have fun.
That's a good outing by itself.
Yes, with hip hop.
yes, and some really funky dance moves come out when the hip hop comes on. So
I can imagine. I can imagine. You said you are now 85, right? Yeah, you are like 85, 90 collaborators. That's what you said. Uh, how how did it start? When you started, did you imagine you'll be at this level, at this scale? Where did it all start? Was it when you were sitting at L'Oréal, dreaming up of what you might do next? Was it at Villa Moda? I think I'm curious to know, where did this whole idea started kind of building up?
no, I mean, look, so funnily enough, I always had a dream to have my own business. So I wanted to have a restaurant. I wanted to have a concept store. I wanted to create all these different things. I worked on different business plans. I mean, I went to business schools and I worked on business plans and it was something that I was always considering what kind of business I would want to do, and what would want to create. The idea of the code came when I was at Villa Moda, and basically I was the marketing manager of Villa Moda, working with different brands. We opened 35 stores for Kering Group, and various brands from the fashion world. During that time, we needed agencies to support us, and honestly, I couldn't find anyone who understood what we needed. At the time, they always say, like, there's always a silver lining to every problem. And the company that I was working for, Villa Moda, was going bankrupt, and I knew I was on a sinking ship, and I was like, okay, so do I go and find another job, or do I try something on my own? And I realized that there was a gap in the market for
Yeah.
an agency like ours, and I decided to give it a shot. I had enough money to keep me going for about a year. I was like, okay, let me try, and I was lucky to find Depeche and I decided to do this together, and yeah, that's how the idea came up. And to be honest, it was a very quick thing, right? Because as soon as we started, everyone wanted to work with us, and they were kind of waiting for someone like the Code to come in and support their marketing activities. And it was the end of the crisis as well, right? So everyone was
Yeah, exactly.
trying to kind of get back on their feet, and we were there to help them navigate that in terms of their communications and in terms of their activations and brand experience.
It's interesting because I picked up a few words there. It's like, there's a gap. There was a gap in the market. People were not, or at least agencies who at the time claimed to fulfill that role of catering for luxury brands, did not really know much what they're doing, or at least did not meet the expectation of these brands. A lot of people would have looked at as an obstacle or as a challenge, and you, on the other hand, looked at that as an opportunity and said, okay, you know what? Here's the challenge, here's the obstacle, but here's the gap that I can fill. And you picked up that
and
one.
Let's dive in.
And
let's go in.
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
go fill that
right
gap.
in the deep end. Right in the deep end. And it's interesting. Is this how you often approached, the different difficulties? Is overcome challenges with new ideas? Because challenge can be a blocker, or it can be a fuel to move forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've funny that you mentioned that about obstacles and challenges, because I recently came across this Chinese proverb about he's a farmer that has a horse, and the horse runs away, and his neighbors all say, like, oh, what bad luck that your horse ran away. And he said, maybe we'll see. 2 days later, the horse comes back with a pack of wild stallions, and they come and back into his property, and now he has like 6 horses instead of 1. So the challenge that he had of losing the horse, and then his son falls off the horse and breaks his arm. They say, oh, what bad luck! But then he was going to be taken into the army, but because his arm was broken, he couldn't go to the army. So he saved, his son's life was not risked by going to the army. So this is really something I've been actually meditating and thinking about a lot lately. Is what do we do in the face of challenge, and what are the things that what you need to kind of look for the silver lining in every obstacle, and
in every situation.
That obstacle is always something greater. That's what I believe. If you have the faith that that overcoming that obstacle, you'll find that kind of pot of gold on the other side.
Ayman, ever since I've known you, you've always found a silver lining, and you are a silver lining. Like you somehow exude when you walk in a room, you're always creating the silver lining. And my curiosity here is, what does it take from you? Like, not everybody has that. So what do you think in you? What kind of lenses, like what kind of glasses, what kind of, I don't know, what is
What kind
your
of
secret?
hacks?
What is the secret sauce
Yeah,
to
what
be?
kind of hacks do you use?
What do you, yeah, or hacks or tools, or what is it in you that you, if you were to teach someone how to be a silver lining or see a silver lining, what is it? What do you think, contemplating on that?
I guess it's the personality. I mean, my father was very much like that. I look like my father. Everything about me is very similar to my father, and he was truly like one of the most. He was kind and very positive and lots of fun, and he loved to enjoy life. I mean, he was just like the most amazing guy. I really was inspired. I was inspired by my father, despite the hardships that he had, and he had so many challenges in his life, but then he always showed up with with a smile and with love and with care and with compassion. He was a very giving person, very charitable, so he I would say would be my biggest inspiration. And I think the secret, I mean, I don't know how to dilute that into a secret sauce, but I think it's just a mindset, right? So you can sit there and say, oh, I had this problem, and the world is all, everyone is against me, and the world is against me. You could take that and keep manifesting more of that, or you can say, okay, this is a challenge. How am I going to overcome it? And try to take a step back, and not mourn whatever you need to mourn, feel the feelings, go through the emotions, and then it's like, okay, now I'm done. What's next?
So basically, it's part perhaps DNA, part inspiration from I mean DNA, because you look like your dad as well, but also part inspiration that you were able to take that from your dad and take it on because it was a good coat to put on, and part mindset shifting. But my curiosity is, you also spoke of meditation. You contemplated on that a little bit. The mindset shifting takes awareness. Like it's.
Yeah.
So what are also the tools that keep you aware on your toes, so that you don't dip into the mourning and grieving and not stepping back, like you said, at some point, and springing back?
Yeah, I mean, so I just came off a 3-day retreat in Guna, and it was a wellness retreat, and with all different kinds of facilitators doing meditation and movement therapies and all different sound healing and all of that. And it's funny because I ran into a friend who I've known for about 25 years, and he said, oh, it's so nice to see someone from our community coming to these festivals. And most of my friends think I'm absolutely bonkers because for them it's just so out there, so woohoo, that someone would do any of these kinds of like hippie. I don't know how people perceive it, but for me, I believe in, I work hard, I play hard, I enjoy I enjoy going out and having a fun party, but then I take the time to give myself that self-care, and that's something which I really had to learn. I didn't sleep enough. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't ever take time for me. And now one of my favorite activities is just being alone, actually. and I think it scared me actually to be alone, and now I cherish those moments that I can have my alone time. And I think I think me and you, Lina, have talked about this before, but finally taking this dive into like a silent retreat, which I'm planning early next year. And those are things which I always like to challenge myself to try something new, which I think which could improve my well-being, my mindset, wellness, health.
Would you consider this contributing to a state of resilience that you are forming, to overcome difficulties?
Absolutely. I mean, again, Lina's familiar with five rhythms and teaches five rhythms, and for me, that that practice for me has been life changing, because we were just talking about that, right? The shaking that animals do, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they're in fear, or when they have, and we as mammals, that's a natural thing that we should be shaking off whatever challenges come. But if you start spontaneously shaking in a meeting, people might think you're absolutely crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, I tried it a couple of times. It didn't work.
I would love to try that actually on my next meeting. Let's see what
I
happens.
can afford doing that now. None of my meetings.
I'll do it on your behalf, Raja.
I think, again, it's a lot of that that energy gets trapped in the body, and I think that that's why I really believe that movement is such an important important part of staying sane, right? Because we all have challenges, whether it's with work, family, um, the news, all of that. So you see all these things happening around you. If you don't take the time to shake it off, it
Yeah.
can come back and really.
It will be stuck inside,
It will be
whether
stuck
it's
inside, yeah.
stories or emotions or circumstances or whatever we face. And what I'm loving about also your way of replenishing, Ayman, and from what you've said and from what I've known of you, is that you've taken an entire range from being with people, from being social and taking on the being the party host that you are, that is amazing, from community setting to supporting community and artists, all the way to alone time. It feels like a journey through all of them, and I know all of them you take on to replenish and step back and gather yourself again, and it's so beautiful and inspiring to witness that range.
I treasure all, the different compartments of my life, and I think it's important to make time for all those different, all those different compartments that make up who you are, right? So if it's friends, family, fun time, alone time, charity, whatever it may be.
Oh,
Well,
and charity is really, really big. And I again, the different compartments, just as a point before, I know we move on to a very important segment. I love, it's my favorite. But there are so many compartments to you, Ayman, that I know of. And it's like, it's always a surprise. Just like the hip hop song was a surprise for me. There's always a compartment that shows up and you go, what? He's involved in this. He's involved in that. He's putting a light and spotlight on this. It's kind of like what your PR work is doing, is putting spotlight in places and gaps that we wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, highlighting
and
important things,
highlight. And it's actually really a beautiful medicine.
It is a medicine, because for me, when you can be of service to someone else, that's something which, service meaning that, you, through my contacts, through my connections, through the people that I know, if I can help one person, have a meal or have an education or have, an opportunity that they wouldn't have had, that I can have that impact actually is so powerful. I feel that that's such a powerful thing that we hold. And we're very privileged people, like people, living in the first world environment. We really take for granted things like running water, electricity. Just the basic things, and when you take a step back and you're having a terrible day, and then you think, okay, well, I'm sitting in my air-conditioned house with a fridge full of food, and I have really actually nothing to worry about. And I often just, you have to talk yourself back and say, what am I worried about?
How do I put this into perspective? Yeah.
Yeah, you need to put it into perspective and understand that, what we complain about is actually really very futile compared to what most people are enduring on a day-to-day basis. So I think it really helps me actually stay sane, right? Is just putting myself in those situations. And I remember when, the Syrian refugee crisis started, Depeche and I actually went, to the camps where in Lebanon, and just hearing the stories, sitting with them, even in that extreme poverty, they were like inviting us into their tent, wanting to make us coffee, and so you see those human touches, and you say, my God, this is just so, it's so devastating for them that they have to flee their home. So it really helps put things in perspective for me,
It's again the awareness and the contrast and the awareness. And actually with you, Ayman, it's awareness, the contrast, the awareness, and then you go and do something about
and
it.
you act on that.
And that's the thing.
Is the Maria Christina Foundation one of those examples?
Yeah. So Maria Christina, again, is an amazing woman who, helps children from Bangladesh come out of the slums. And, and so we actually have a couple of her students working at the Qode. We've had several of them come through, and then, some of them have left. We've supported them with going to university and so on. But, what she does is incredible, raising money through doing incredible feats like swimming across, seas and climbing mountains and all of that to raise money. And she's just done an incredible job. And she has like 20-30 kids living in her house in Dubai. I mean, she's just like an amazing
Unbelievable.
woman.
Yeah, amazing. And
her life, and all we've done is actually introduce her to some people, a few of our clients who, we just introduced them to the Maria Christina Foundation, and then they also hired people from their side, So again, it's just like creating that impact where they can then make money now and send money home and help the village.
It's a beautiful way, yet again, of you filling that gap, but with service this time as well.
And leveraging the network that he has
yes.
For other things that what might people, consider as like commercial use or business.
That's right.
It's quite commendable. You spoke about community, you spoke about friends. We reached out to one of your friends. It's one of our favorite segments. We reached out to one of your friends. And I think you may already have answered that question that she asked, but I'll play it to you anyway.
I think one of the most impressive things I find about Ayman is how he manages to always keep his cool. Even difficult moments, I've seen him really kind of keep it cool and calm and collect. So my question for you, Ayman, is how do you manage to do that? How you manage to keep yourself composed and grounded and respected? Because it's not an easy industry when you're dealing with so many human beings and different personalities. So I would love for you to share that.
Well, first of all, thank you, Sadia, for the question. She's seen me in pretty intense scenarios, and I have to say, it is what she's saying is absolutely correct. I mean, what we do is very challenging, and sometimes you have to deal with very challenging personalities, and you have to keep your cool and stay diplomatic. And I have to say, I keep it cool on the outside, but sometimes I'm burning up inside. I'm boiling with anger or with whatever it may be. And again, it's for me, it's all about the release, like going on the Five Rhythms dance floor, for example, and just screaming out loud, and that's a safe space where I can actually do that, right? And for me, it's just like I let out that frustration in the appropriate moments. Even read in some podcasts that I hear, like where they say, like, scream into a pillow or whatever. We are, as humans, as animals, we have all those emotions, right? So if you suppress anger, that also is going to manifest in something else, or one day you're just going to explode, and
or it's going to show up in the wrong place.
It will. And
it
especially
will.
The industry that you evolve in is one of very image driven, very expectation driven, and to be able to balance all that, how can you manage the energy that you have? And I think this is what Sadia was referring to. How do you keep it cool? Because appearances do matter in that industry again, but staying true to yourself and being on a high level of self-awareness also matters to live that role, to play that role in the industry.
No, absolutely. I think in any job, right, in any situation, you have the choice of either, I don't understand people who yell and scream. Just for me, it's not part of my vocabulary, let's just say. Like I don't know how to I have an argument or I have a discussion, it's always a discussion, and you know, for me to raise my voice is almost, I don't know if I've ever, you know, it ever happens, you know, like it's just something that I don't believe is you know, the appropriate way to deal with a situation. Any situation can be dealt with a conversation, and could be heated, it could be etc., but it doesn't require you to raise your voice or be you know, or to disrespect someone, and I think that's something very in my opinion a very important thing to consider.
But it's true. I mean, the minute you raise your voice, or the minute you don't, I don't want to say control your anger, but the minute you don't kind of keep your emotions in check is the time when you lose any impartiality in any argument, in any discussion, right? So,
and that goes back to the cleaning up your inner space, like,
yes.
you know, having to clean it up over and over and over again is the practice. Whatever tool you use, as you were saying, Ayman, it's like that constant cleaning up in order for that muck not to show up in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, and you know, yeah, keep it respectful. Keep your own sense of self-respect as well in the moment, like not just respecting that other person. So do we have another friend we want to hear from?
Yeah, I've
because that's my favorite part. I love hearing from friends.
So we have another question. It's a fairly classical one, but I'm personally very curious to hear the answer. So I'll play it again.
Hey Ayman, I want to ask you a question. What is the advice you would give younger Ayman, and what would you thank him for?
Oh, love that question.
That's so funny. It's actually a question that comes up on RuPaul's.
Oh,
yes. Oh gosh, yes.
I would say I would thank him for his curiosity, and I think that that was one of the things that I never accepted anything as black and white. I always questioned everything, and you know, always had a kind of my point of view, and I wouldn't, let's say, accept you know, if I'm told that this is what I have to do, but I would always question why. Not in a way that kind of defies authority, but in a way that kind of questions the reasoning behind everything. And I think, you know, I would thank him for being resilient as well, you know, in the face of so many challenges, and yeah, I think you know, he was a very strong young boy.
And vulnerable? Was younger Ayman vulnerable?
Younger Ayman was street smart. Like he knew how to navigate situations, you know, and especially like in boarding school, and you know, there was so many things to overcome and challenges to overcome, and I always found my way, you know, and I think that I never kind of accepted defeat. I would always get back up and find my way to navigate whatever issues came my way. And it was you know, it was quite interesting, like being in a Christian, like very strict Christian school, and you know, being a Muslim kid, and you know, it came with its own set of challenges, right? So I think that was as part of what shaped me, actually, you know, being different, being in a situation where I was a minority, let's say, and you know, it also shaped who I am today, and the idea that I'm very accepting of everyone, and I think that definitely shaped
I love the part about the streets. It's all like, if I were to just look at all the stuff that's been said so far, the street smart, the badass hip hop, the creative one, the curious one. So it's kind of like the curious one because you're looking for solutions, creative solutions, which is what your actual fashion PR industry is all about, really.
Totally.
And finding ways to navigate different challenges, different clients, different different lifestyles and identities, being in Dubai, like all of that. It's to me, it's like really inspiring. And I wonder if this is something you even knew about yourself or planned, looking back to Ayman, the younger Ayman, and is this something that you are discovering about yourself today, or is it something you knew? Like when you say, "Oh, I was street smart," did you know that about yourself, or is this something that you've come to now with that awareness?
With hindsight.
Yeah, hindsight, exactly.
I mean, no, I think I always kind of knew that. I was always like, I always laugh about this, but I was really close to all my friends' parents, and the parents always loved me, and they always trusted that if their kids, if their sons or daughters or whatever were with me, that they were going to be in safe hands, and it's true that I always kind of make sure that I win the trust of people and in the right way, and because they know that my intentions are not going to be, are not negative in any way. So that helps, right? When people see who you are, they start to respect and trust you, and I think that's a big tool, let's say, or a big asset to have, right? Is people's trust, and whether it's in business, friendship, family, etc. So I think it really is something that I value, and always kind of strive for.
Trustworthy badass.
That sounds like
the trustworthy badass.
The next title of a hip hop album.
That's right. Who really
write a book and call it The Trustworthy Badass.
There you go.
The trustworthy badass.
There you
The
go.
one who releases all the shit so it doesn't get thrown on other people. They trust him enough, and then he can go ahead and be creative and be badass about it.
We talked about identity, and we often talk on this podcast, we often talk about identity and how much that influences, ourselves and the work we do. I mean, you're half Iraqi, half Egyptian. You grew up almost everywhere.
Muslim in a Christian school, like he was saying also.
Exactly. So all these, from the outset is like a hot pot of contradictions that can result in one heck of a disaster, whereas the opposite has happened.
Chaotic soup.
It's chaotic soup. How much of that do you attribute to who you are today? We are the making of who we were and how we evolved. How much of that contributed to you moving forward? This multi-layers of identities, new or acquired or even existing, how much of that do you think contributed to who Ayman Fakoussa is today and what Ayman does?
I think that in the face of adversity, right, you can take those challenges, whether it's living in a place like Saudi Arabia during that time, which came with a whole set of its own challenges, and being in a boarding school where it was a very strict Christian school. I mean, there was a lot of challenges that came my way, and honestly, when I kind of look at that, I say, well, if I overcame this, then I can overcome anything, and I think that's something that. When I look around me and you look at people who come out of war zones and become like extremely successful or for me, I really like look at people like Nelson Mandela, like Gandhi, all of these like amazing leaders who went through really difficult moments, right? Being in prison for what was it, like almost 3 decades, I think, and then coming out and still having compassion and still having love and still having being friends with his prison guards. I mean, that for me just shows that if we kind of lead with love rather than leading with hate or resentment or
yes,
I had such a difficult life, so now I'm gonna scream and shout about it. What is that gonna achieve? And that's always what I how I look at things, right?
What a beautiful, and we've heard that statement in such beautiful different ways as
Totally.
well. Yeah.
Totally. And I link it back to the curiosity. You know what? One of the main problems of the world today is that we're afraid from each other. And we're afraid from each other, I'm talking globally, because we don't know enough about each other. And we don't know enough about each other because we're not curious to know about each other.
Goes
and if
back
you look,
into trust again.
it goes back to trust. And the basis of creativity, and I attribute creativity to human evolution. If human wasn't creative, they wouldn't have evolved the way they have evolved, right? And that creativity, the core of that creativity is curiosity. How can I do things differently, and why are things done this way? If we're not curious, you mentioned Nelson Mandela and how friendly he became with his prison guard, but he was curious to learn about him and to learn about the Afrikaans community. If he wasn't curious, he wouldn't have understood, and that understanding wouldn't have led to tolerance and wisdom that we have experienced later. I think, if I tie it all up, as you said, trust, curiosity, resilience. Street smartness can fit somewhere there, but it's part of resilience, and it's part of
taking that
curiosity.
leap. Also needs to be, you need to be a street smart, and filling that gap, which is Nelson Mandela as well. He really did.
Without curiosity, I think you hit something really interesting. I mean, humanity has only progressed through curiosity, right? So the people who are curious about, inventions and led with their curiosity to create all the amazing things that make our lives so much easier today. The curiosity to cross seas and discover new lands. And, so all of that, I mean, without the curiosity, a lot of what we have today wouldn't exist. And I think that actually, it's funny that we hit on that word specifically, because I think you're absolutely right. That is what drives humanity, right? And that's what separates us from other animals in the animal kingdom, is that we actually have the capacity to think and to be curious about the world.
Absolutely.
And it also fits with love, because you said we can either come out of fear or from love, and fear as an energy does hold us back, perhaps even impedes curiosity, perhaps even in the midst of adversity, it takes away the trust.
Totally.
And whilst curiosity and love creates curiosity and its positive movement forward. So it's a more of going forward with curiosity and love. So beautiful.
Just to close with one thing is, I think that leading with love and curiosity about other people, rather than kind of accepting the norms, and when I talked about questioning everything that comes my way. Unfortunately, so many people now are conditioned to, hate this group of people, hate that group of people, creates wars, and all different kinds of atrocities that we see in the world today. If people were curious about each other and actually took the time to get to know and actually think about, why are people the way they are, or why are people not the way they are, I really try and no matter how much I feel passionately about certain things, I always try to put myself in the situation of the other person, right? So the invader, the whatever, and the racist, or the whoever it may be. Those, and I try to think, well, what led them to be that way, and can you blame an 18-year-old who was brought up in a racist home for being racist, because that's all they know, right? That's all they were taught. So in a way, it how do you overcome that? How do you start the conversation to give that person an opportunity to see that you can lead with love, and there's space on this planet for all of us, right? It doesn't, your presence doesn't have to cancel out my presence, or vice versa, right?
The question, as you said it so beautifully, is how to start a conversation. What is the start of that conversation? I think this is what will lead.
And one of the tools also, what I'm hearing is, and what I witness as well, even in classrooms and with Ayman specifically, he's continuously willing to shake off anything that is in the way of that. Even at the expense, even if it's something he can hold on to as part of his values, he will shake it off just temporarily in order to have a conversation. And I think that's quite inspiring. And it is a very rare, very, very rare attribute.
Well, it's
to be
a
honest. And
strength.
it's a major
It's
strength.
a strength.
It's part of resilience, actually.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Well, Ayman, this was so inspiring. We can't thank you enough for what you have shared with us. We can't thank you for the authenticity, for the kindness, for the love that you have shared with us and that we know you share with everybody. And we can't wait to hear about your next project, because I'm sure you've got so much in the pipeline that you're not sharing with all of us yet, but we're looking forward to that.
Especially after the silent retreat. I'm really curious to know what comes up after that.
Maybe we need to talk again after that.
Yes.
We
yes.
should.
Maybe we will. We
We
will,
should.
just to see the contrast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how that pans out. But I think honestly, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. What you guys discuss and talk with. I mean, I've watched your podcast and it's amazing. So keep up the good work, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Ayman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this has been Forward Moves, hosted by Lina, Nahhas and Haddad. If you liked our episode, please do give us a 5-star rating and do tell your friends about it. Until then, just keep on moving forward.